Matthew McConaughey on Dose of Leadership. I can't believe it. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Good to be here. It's a great topic to talk about. I will never go out of style talking about this topic.
Yeah, no kidding. I got to tell you, I love the book. I read it and I listened to it. Two different experiences, and I'm glad I did both because the visual aspect of the book was, I listened to it first because it was easier for me being on a plane and stuff. But then I read it, and it's like I got two different experiences. I got a lot out of it doing both ways. I don't know. Has anybody said that to you about?
I've heard that a few times.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, when I read it, they read it with their own voice.
Yeah.
Hear me read it audibly.
Yeah, for sure.
They heard my voice and laughed in places that they didn't laugh when they read it. Yeah. Heard me point out certain things that maybe they had skipped over. And so it was like reading the same book, but getting two different things out of it each time.
Yeah, no, it was just great. And I think it was a great book for the time, I think for the year. I mean, I would even say it was profound in a lot of ways in the sense that, and I thought, well, God, this would be a good topic because there's so many areas of leadership. And I don't know if you ever looked at it in that way, but leadership's a big umbrella. But a lot of stuff you talk about in here, and this show is about like how to kind of navigate through life. And that's what the book is, right? I mean, and I love the concept of the green lights, but to me, I talk a lot about on this show. And I used to, coming from the Marine Corps, the biggest thing I learned is like how to be a composed force in a chaotic situation. And that's what your book was to me. It was like you seem to embrace this idea that, look, man, it's never smooth. It's never a straight line. It's jagged. It's up and down. And those red lights and the yellow lights that we come across, that's the stuff that kind of shapes us. And there's green light assets, I think is the term that you use, that are inside of those things. And that resonates with me because I do think life is about, you can lead a significant life if you can learn how to be a composed force in a chaotic situation. And that's what I got out of your book. How does that resonate with you when I say that?
I love that term too. Please remind me of that because I'm not going to write it down now, but I really like that term, composed force in a chaotic situation. Yeah, I mean, I don't care I don't think it matters what someone's beliefs are, whether they're a believer in another life after this, or if they're sort of, hey, life's all about cruelty and we're just dying every day. That's all fine. Or if you're an eternal optimist and you're like, no, every day is great. We got another sun rose for me. That wasn't guaranteed. Whichever end of the spectrum anyone's from. Either way, the more proactive, the more constructive, the more healthy, the more fun choice is to go, well, if I'm believing that, we're just dying off every day and the world's cruel and it sucks to be here, that's fine. Shake hands with that. So now we might as well do it with pleasure or do it with dignity. It's that I bring up that line later in the book where I say, in those times where we feel like it's all for nothing or the math of the world adds up to say, oh, it's all for nothing. What do I matter? It's in those moments that are part and parcel with, oh, it's all for everything.
Right.
So the alternative, and I'm not pushing Hallmark card delusional optimism. I'm not a fan of that stuff. I'm not a big pep rally cheerleader guy. I'm trying to find practical stuff. I've tried to find it in my own life. And part of it should pull another line from the book. If you do have sort of a nihilist point of view, okay, well then purchase this. Once you know it's black, it ain't near as dark. Right. So, if you're going to say, oh, it sucks, well, then go, well, okay, you're going to make the best of it, however it looks. So I think that's what you were alluding to in certain times where my red and yellow lights, the red and yellow lights we all have in life. When I bring up something as simple as sense of humor being a default emotion to untie the knot within the contradictions in our life, I'm bringing that up to say, hey, that doesn't deny the crisis.
No.
It's just another tool to help you deal with it. It's more even sort of survival. And some of these things maybe you can use to thrive, but at least it can use to help better survive and have a little more satisfaction getting through this damn rodeo we're all in.
Right. And it's not even fair to say it's a typical book that, I mean, it does have things that you can apply to your life, but it's not a how-to book. It's a memoir slash these are the things that worked for me. Take it if you like it. If not, I don't, this is what my life is. I guess what was the intent when you set out to write it? Was it to help people like myself or help other people? Or was it just to kind of get your authentic self out there? Was it to leave a legacy for your kids? Was it all the above? What was it?
I mean, somewhat all the above. It started off, I thought it was going to be, before I opened up that big treasure chest of journals to see what I had in them, the ones I've been keeping for the last 36 years, I had an idea of what I thought I was going to find. And I thought it was going to be very academic. I thought it was going to be very self-help. I thought it was going to be sort of if then. And I like some of that. But again, that can start to lean into that Hallmark card sort of world. And self-help, I've got, I've got a decent relationship with self-help, but I like my sort of wisdom to have a little more context and allow me, the individual, to have the power to go, well, no, I can apply this in a different way in my position. And I can apply it in a particular way that no one else can. We each can do that. So I went away thinking it was going to be a little bit more of that. And as I started looking through all the diaries and everything and journals I've been keeping, I started to go, no, this is more poetry than academia.
Yeah.
There's more of a lineage of stories, and I keep seeing certain points come back and reveal themselves again and again and again in my life, which created consistencies for where I succeeded and for where I failed.
Yeah.
Then I noticed things like, oh, the same questions you were asking at 14 years old, you're still asking today at 51. Yeah. My answers maybe have evolved. My questions may have evolved, but I'm still asking the same question. I'm still interested in the existential questions of what are we doing here? What's the best way to navigate this thing? What matters? What doesn't? What can I do something about? What can I just say, forget that? I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to spend my time. So, what's negotiable in life? What's non-negotiable? Things like that. So I started to notice that when I then started to add more of my personal stories, which I was hesitant to go in thinking I should add my stories because that felt more like memoir. And I don't have a good relationship with the word memoir. Memoir to me always sounds to me like, oh, the sun is setting. Goodbye, everyone.
Right.
No, I'm live here. So if I tell my stories from the past, they have to be vital. They have to incentivate. They have to, charge you into the next story and also have something hopefully in them that you can see yourself in. And that's what it became. Yeah. And I noticed that the more personal I got, which is what actually I think is why I think might be better than, more true than a self-help book, is that the more personal I got, the more relatable things became for more amount of people. And I could tell that when I was writing it.
Yeah. And I think that's the key to that struck me. I jotted down a note early on in the process when I was reading the book, and I thought, you're a master storyteller, obviously. I mean, you're when you listen to it, the stories, storytelling is almost a requirement for a great leadership and to change, right, to change things, to change beliefs, to philosophies. Everybody loves a great story. I mean, we know that.
Yeah, they don't want to be talked at.
Yeah.
One of the things in the book that I had to really watch was what person to use, first, second, or third, I, you, or we.
Right.
So if it's just I'm telling you my personal stories, you can agree or disagree with me because I'm just saying, hey, this is how I felt about it.
Yeah.
And if I'm using the you, that becomes the self-help. I'm talking at you.
Right.
Some people can go like, hey, man, don't tell me what. It's easy for you to say. Don't tell me what to do. I don't like people telling me what to do either. And then if you use the royal we, which is the honey hole, but you got to watch it because if it's not put on the page right, it can become kind of arrogant. Oh, you're speaking for all of us? Yeah. But at the same time, I found the more I went into the I, the more it revealed truths for the we, and vice versa, where my experience is a human experience, where so hopefully someone can read it and go, oh, their own experience is my experience and everyone else's experience as well.
Well, and the key too, I don't know if you've thought about this, the authenticity and transparency, which I think are currencies that are needed. So, are in short supply in everything that we look, particularly in the pop culture sense, but everywhere you look, and there's a leadership vacuum. And I think the currencies that are needed are authenticity, transparency, vulnerability, which all leads to courage. And we suck at it because it takes a tremendous amount of courage to do those things as human beings. But you're very authentic and transparent. And you hooked the hook early on. Your old man, I wish I could have met your old man. He seemed like such a character. It doesn't even seem like I've met people like that. I've had relatives like that. And what I loved about when you're talking about your old man, And I think it hit me when I listened to your conversation with Stern, and Howard Stern really went into, like, he was sad for you, but I kept saying no. And I remember shaking my head. I'm like, no, no.
Oh,
You embraced, I don't know if dysfunction's the appropriate word. We all live,
we all got it.
everybody's life had dysfunction, chaos, but you found, I guess, the green light asset within that, right? The key is, regardless of that again, we're only seeing snippets of the volatility. Yeah. You still knew that they loved you. That was the key, right? They taught you so many values that shaped you and made you who you are today. Anyway, does that make sense? What I'm saying?
100%. And look, hey, my mother, who was the first person I gave the book to, and said immediately, oh, every single one of those things happened and then some. She did say to me, oh, I do wish you would have included more stories when your dad and I were getting along, which was 90% of the time, when the hands were the hands that healed. And you know what? And I thought about it. I was like, well, why is it that when people ask me about the love of my family, do I tell these stories of discipline and their physical discipline?
Yeah.
I've always told those stories long before writing the book. And if I tell you in person, you see me light up.
Yeah.
And you see that I'm not going, oh, I'm abused or a victim. I'm going, no, right. That's how I do it. And so I tried to, over this past 6 months, try to decipher, why is that? And I think it's because those are the times where the love that we had was challenged the most to that it might break. Oh, this might be the end.
Right.
But it never had a chance of breaking the love. It was never even in question.
Right.
And even that, so the impenetration of the love by any sort of fight or violent act, the fact that we knew in the moment, oh, this is not like the beginning of the end. This is just a little crack, and this doesn't have a chance against the love we have. I think that's why I tell those stories, because it expresses how much love we did have, and how much it was unconditional and inherent in the family.
Yeah, no, I got
challenge the most.
Yeah, I got that sense from that. I mean, I think even just kind of listening. I mean, well, I get why you're telling this side of it, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, and maybe again, coming from the Marine Corps, you saw those types of characters all the time, right? You see, like, your dad kind of reminds me of that. I've met some officers like that who were you knew, but they cared about you deeply. But every now and then they would just kind of have this volatility about them. But I don't know. It's that yin and the yang that I think, I don't know, that makes us a human being that should be cherished. I don't know.
I'm with you. As you notice how I read, I've never judged my parents, if anything, because I don't discipline and give consequences to my children the way my parents did me. But I don't for 1 second judge poorly or say my parents did it wrong.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
I don't remember the immediate pain of any of those butt whoopings. What I do remember is, oh, wow, I got a whooping because I told my brother I hated him.
Yeah.
Wow. What does that mean?
Yeah.
That what's the antonym of hate? Even on a basic primal level. Oh, hate brings pain. Oh, that's a great lesson, or got in trouble, got whooped for saying I can't.
Yeah.
Say I can't. You can say you're having trouble, but don't say I can't. Wow. Okay. If I believe I can't, that brings pain. Oh, geez. Oh man, that's a great value. Lying.
Yeah.
Whoop. Oh, lie, get pain. Those travel. He was preparing me for life.
Yeah.
Go out there, man. I don't remember the pain that I broke his heart because I did lie to him in front of his face is what hurt me. I write about it when I got the backhand. I went to the floor. I didn't go to the floor because of his backhand. I went to the floor because of my coward ass lactic acid legs I was standing on because I was such a weasel.
Right. Yeah, that story, I listened to it and reading it, and it's just like, oh, and just my stomach was in knots, and we've all been there, right? And you just let him down. He gave you every opportunity to tell you if he stole the pizza or not, and you're just like, and you even knew, and even when you're telling the lie, you knew you shouldn't have, but you just did it. Yeah, we all been there. Oh man. Yep. And just the disappointed father speech or whatever is way more painful than any ass whooping or backhand in the face,
Oh, 100%. And I remember I broke his heart that night. If I'd have told him, yeah, we stole the pizza, he'd have gone, gosh, doggy bunny, you're not making enough money in your damn chores? What are you doing stealing a pizza like a punk? Hey, number two, if you do it again, you got to get better at getting away with it. It would have been, it would,
Yeah, exactly.
it would, and we would have been in. We would have had I would have been in with him. He
Yeah,
could have talked to me as a buddy from then on,
you would.
because I took the challenge of putting my ass on the line and saying, "Dad, I did it."
Yeah,
Instead of going, "No, I mean, I think 4 times in a row," and he gave me 4 chances.
times.
That other lesson for any kids out there, gang. If you ever, for in this instance, do something wrong out there, for this instance, steal a pizza, if you come home and your dad or mom is on the phone after they would usually be in bed already, number one, and they're on the phone hanging up saying, "Okay, I got this from here, Mr. So-and-so." And that last name of that Mr. So-and-so happens to be the name of the father of the guy that you stole the pizza.
Yeah.
And then the first question from your father is, "Did you pay for that pizza?" It means he knows you didn't.
Exactly. Oh, it was such a painful story. Oh my God. Oh my Lord. That's crazy. I can think of, I just thought there was a time my dad had this, he had a hunting dog, a pointer, and a friend made a ceramic thing, a replica, and I wanted to take it for show and tell. He's like, "No, it's too precious to me." And I'm like, "Please, Dad, please let me take it." And my mom, I took it, and no one even gave a shit when I showed it, right? No one even cared. It was like kind of a non-event at school. And I was walking out and I was carrying it, and it's like a Leave It to Beaver episode. I tripped and fell, and it broke in the thing. And I told my mom, and my mom tried to help me cover it up. Like, she glued it up, and because she knew how important it was to my dad. And I was sitting there we were watching TV, he just come home from work and he's snacking, and the tail of that thing, he was sitting on his gun cat and the tail fell off. Boom.
Oh.
And he's like, "What? How'd that? Did you break that?" And I'm like, "No, maybe Mom broke it." You know what I mean? Oh, and same thing, that disappointed. "Why would you blame your mother?" Oh, he got livid.
Oh, yeah.
And it was for the lion, it wasn't for the breaking the thing.
Which preparing us for life, going, when you get out there, you're going to have to stand up and take the consequences for when you own up to when you do wrong or when you screw up.
So many favorite stories in that, but I don't know if I hadn't heard you talk about it in your other previous conversations, but I love that the whole sequence, the Dooley story of living with the Dooleys in Australia. And I was trying to think, why did that resonate with me so much? And I think it's at the end of the book, when you kind of summed it up at the end of like, why, that was kind of the time that you kind of, I don't know, why was the Dooley experience so important to you? Or what was the big lesson from the Dooley experience?
So I'm coming out of high school rolling, meaning talk about catching green lights. I've made my straight A's, so Mom and Dad are happy. I've turned 18, which in our family was the rite of passage of, okay, now you don't have to follow any rules. You have no curfew. If you haven't learned it yet, you're not going to learn it. I got a 4 handicap. I'm dating a good look, best looking girl at my school and across town. I just made my third hole in one. I got my truck. It's paid for. I got a job. I got $50 in my back pocket. Things are rolling for me. And I decided to go away as an exchange student to Australia for a year. Well, when I thought I was going to be living on the outskirts of Sydney, which was very exciting, metropolis, big city, here we go, young men gone to Oz. Let's go have a great time. Well, it turned out to be not that. It was about 3 hours outside of that, well inland on a little farm in the middle of nowhere with a house, with this family that was strange.
Yeah, to say the least.
And I didn't have, so 18 to 19 is the age when any young man is trying to figure out their own identity anyway. But now I'm there in this foreign land on my own. I don't have my truck. I don't have my friends. I don't have my girlfriend. I don't have a job putting money in my pocket. I don't have my golf clubs. I don't have anywhere to go to even have a curfew for anyway, or not. And if I did go somewhere, this family now says I do have a curfew. And I was forced, I many times would go to speak to, hey, Dad, or call my buddy, and they weren't there. It was me. And for the first time, I was forced to rely on myself to figure out what the heck mattered, what didn't matter, who I was, who I wasn't. And I did it very clumsily. You read part of the comedy in that story is I remember I created very odd disciplines for myself because I was so lost. I needed these sort of tangible things to be able to accomplish in a day to feel like, okay, I did that. I ran my 6 miles. I was vegetarian. I ate my iceberg lettuce with ketchup. That was a sacrifice. I'm celibate. Okay, there's a sacrifice. Something to give me just a semblance of having a compass or feet on the ground. That's another. I need a few things I can check off on my list that I did in a day to give me a sense of identity. So it was a clumsy way to go about it. But look, that year I endured through that loneliness. I wrote 14-page letters and returned them to myself. Talk about Socratic dialogue. It's all I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I was confused. I was lonely, but I remember feeling, I had made my mind up that I would stay in the full year, no matter what. Well, as you read the story, most people will go, why the hell didn't you come home after 2 weeks? But I was like, no, I'm in this for a year. And something about just committing to that, in all of my confusion through that year, I had this little sneaky suspicion that, I'll stick it to them if I make it the whole year. Watch this. They can't break me.
Yeah.
And I took it as a bit of a challenge, and I started to gather some honor in that, and gather some steam and some power and some identity in the absolute endurance of it. Because trust me, I just kept my head above water. I was not thriving.
No. Yeah.
Now, afterwards, and then when I get done and I'm done with the year, there have been many things that I've run into that I'm like, oh, that's nothing. I'll knock that out lickety split. Trust me, I got no solitude. Oh, I can tell you about some solitude. And the company was not fun, and it was with me, And so it was I wouldn't say I formed calluses for myself, but in ways I did. But I also was forced to be an introvert for the very first time in my life, and try to suss things out on my own with nobody to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
And so there was great value in that.
Well, it seemed like you gained, I don't know, the takeaway was, I guess independence is the right word I'm looking for. But yeah, because up to that, like you said, you kind of had everything. It was like spring break 24/7, right? Great cards,
Saturday. And I was rolling, and I had earned a lot of those things, but still I had them. And all of a sudden those Greenlights came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
You are without. You don't have any of those. Stripped down to you and you. And you're going to be surrounded by a very odd family. And you saw me through the book. I'm sitting there every time they do something. I'm like,
maybe it's cultural
differences.
But it was a turning point, I think, like you said, when you stood up to wherever it was, I think
the mom and pop.
When they wanted to call you mom and dad, and you just said, no, I'm not going to do that. Right.
That was a huge point for me.
You're 18, right? And you're 19 or at the time, whatever the hell you were.
I'm just about to turn 19. Family wants me to call them mom and pop. Well, of all the odd things that had happened that I'd been adding up to cultural differences, taking the high road with, that was a seminal moment because I didn't need to ask anybody.
Right.
That was the sacrifices or the consequences, whichever way it went. And I immediately said, no, thank you for considering me that way. But I have mom and dad. And that's the only person I'm calling mom and dad.
Yeah.
I was clear. And I had strength in that clarity. It was one of the only damn things I had clear clarity about the entire year.
Yeah.
But to have that clarity gave me identity and gave me something to stand on that I needed something to be black and white at that point. Because everything I was in the limbo of gray, trying to figure everything out. Didn't know what the hell to trust in. To know that and have that sense and go, well, even if the world disagrees and I'm just different.
Yeah.
But I was, so that helped a lot.
It is. I don't know that's, and hearing you tell the story was just, I laughed out loud numerous times during that chapter. I don't know. It didn't even seem real. I mean, most of your stories, it seems like you can make a movie out of it. It doesn't seem real. But then I started thinking about some of the stories. You and I are roughly the same age. I'm a little bit older, and I was watching, me and my wife were watching that documentary on HBO Max about that action park. You know what I'm talking about? That in New Jersey, they call it Class Action Park, but there was anyway, the point I was bringing up with this is that they talked about the time period that we grew up in the 70s and the 80s, right? And just the amount of freedom that we had. And it's just amazing that we're even alive, you know what I mean? With all the stuff that we had to do. But And I look at my kids, you know, I got 4 of them, 2 of them are out of the house, but 2 of them in high school, and they don't do near the craziness that we did. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because I do look back at that time period that we grew up, and almost all those near-death experiences or those crazy experiences that you even talk about in the book, I think those were beneficial to me. I don't know.
Well, you know they were.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Now, I think we as fathers, we got to ask ourselves this question. If we had the chance to let our children, and we knew they were going to be in the same situation with what we know now, would we let them?
Probably. Well,
a lot of them, I would not. A lot of them,
I wouldn't.
I still have nights where I wake up in a cold sweat of things that I pulled off or got out of or got lucky as a kid because I was in a situation, because pure ignorance got me through it.
Exactly.
And if I would have known what I know now, it would have not, number one, I wouldn't have gone, but if I would have gone, I would have understand the danger I was in.
Yeah.
And maybe would have choked, you know, but
right.
Because of the pure ignorance, I still wake up in cold sweats about certain things. But if my kids, they could say they could go, I guess the fact, I don't know if I could let them go. There's a lot of things though I do wish. It's that old, I mean, you know, kids aren't afraid of heights till they fall.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we did a lot of these things because we had an air of invincibility about us and ignorance, you know. And you're right. So if I knew what I knew then, I probably wouldn't have done a lot of these things. But no, I get that.
Where's that limb? You know, how high is that limb that we let our children go out on before telling them, "Hey, come down from there"?
I know.
You know, because you want to allow it to be high enough for them to fall and get bumped and bruised. You don't really want to allow it to be with I don't know. I don't really want them to allow it so high that they're breaking bones.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But it's that limbs getting shorter, or the dangers are also just different now. I mean, it's such a.
Yeah, it is. It's more consequential, it seems like, on some of the things that if would have happened. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the right way. I don't know if it's because we're more litigious as a society, or if it's, I don't know, the consequences can be so great, you know, like lives can be ruined. It seems like easier than it could back then. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking.
Yeah. No, it's a great question that if we want to spend our time on it, we're going to have good job security, because I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out, you know?
Well, I like to, in your book, and you said, you know, in the choice, there was kind of that one, section where you're talking about in choice lies the free, where you're talking about like, you know, discipline. Like you can't have freedom without boundaries, I guess, as I'm kind of summing it up. Does that make sense? And like within that choice that's where the freedom is. And I love that really resonated with me when you said in that choice, because you have these kind of boundaries and these restrictions, it gives you that free will or that choice. And in that choice, that's where the freedom lies. That's key. I don't know.
And I think it's us all needing to understand what the true realism of freedom is, what the true definition of freedom is. If freedom is 4-dimensional, whatever, whenever, that's anarchy, I think. I mean, it has no form.
Right.
What's the evolution in that? If every day was Saturday, or you could have as much sweets as you want, and you ate them up, your teeth are going to fall out. I mean, it doesn't last. It doesn't have compounding assets for us in the future. So freedom does have some structure. So I think responsibility, there's a responsibility to freedom. And that's part of, which lays in choice. Because if it was the other freedom where it's 4-dimensional, anytime you want, anywhere, there's kind of not a choice, or each choice doesn't have the same consequences, good or bad.
Right.
It's all sort of, there's no gravity, there's no form, there's no direction behind it. So, you know, the boundaries to freedom give without gravity, there's no form. I mean, you want to, I think we want to, I like to say this, let's create our own weather and then blow in the wind. You know what I mean? Let's check the pool for water before we dive in. You know, there's a couple of things. Let's block and tackle before we start practicing our touchdown dance. Let's learn to do the basics, or what are the rules of the game. It's also about knowing your zone. Yeah. Different games have different zones. Different work categories have different zones. Well, know the zone, play the game, but understand the rules of it first. And once you get that down, that's why it's called conservative early
liberal
liberal.
late. Yeah.
What's the, in that opening conservation of creating the boundaries, I like wide ones. I mean, creating wide, I say 16 lane highway. And then once we know that our highway is going in the direction we want to go, give yourself 16 lanes to swerve all over that damn thing.
Yeah.
Take an exit. But I know whatever happens, even if I wreck or whatever, I'm going the right direction. If I'm, if I'm headed north, because I'm trying to get to Canada, if I got my 16 lanes going north, I can swerve all over, take exits, whatever, because I can trust that I'm not going to be heading towards Mexico.
Right.
It's just get the general direction and then allow yourself to swerve.
Yeah.
And that's freedom. That's the freedom.
That's the freedom. You're absolutely right. The conservative, early, liberal, late philosophy. Yeah, that was great. That really resonated with me too. I love the part in the book too. And when you were in college and, you were set out to be a lawyer, and then it kind of hit you as you're getting ready for that exam, and you're sitting on your roommate's couch or somewhere in your frat house and thumbing through the Playboys and the sports magazines, and it's not resonating, and you find The Greatest Salesman, which is a great book. It's funny that you found that, and you just felt like that was a calling for you, and that led to the eventual conversation with your father, or the clarity. You got that alignment and clarity shortly after that you didn't want to be a lawyer anymore, right? Tell us that story. I love what your dad said to you. That was just so great.
Yes. So I'm into my sophomore year in college. I have taken all credits headed towards law school. Being a lawyer is the only thing I was ever considered to be. We've been talking about it in my family since I was 12. I was excited to go be one. I was a really good debater. I love to take both sides of an argument, et cetera, et cetera. Into my sophomore year in college, I'm starting to not really sleep that well with the idea of being a lawyer. I'm like, geez, you got a couple more years here. Then you have to go to law school. Then you have to get out and get maybe an internship, try to get a job, start low. You're really not going to be making your mark or putting some kind of mark in society until you're in your 30s. And I didn't like the idea of, I have to be educating myself for my entire decade of my 20s. Well, I had been writing some short stories and stuff at that time. And I've been sharing them with some friends that were writers. They were telling me, hey, these are really good. And so I started thinking about this storytelling aspect. I said, well, I think I want to go to film school.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get in the storytelling business. I couldn't admit at that time that I wanted to be in front of the camera, but I think in hindsight, I actually did.
Good.
But I knew I wanted to just get over in that storytelling business, creation, art. And I go to my frat house 3 hours before my final exam. As a psychology exam. I was a study bug. I'm a guy with a 3.82 GPA, and I will use the last 30 seconds to study. I'm a guy, if you give me an hour for the test, if I don't finish in 40 minutes, I will go all the way up until the last one to turn in just to double check everything, blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, this day, as I open up my books to keep studying, because I got 3 hours, for the first time in my life, I went, you got this. Shut them. Put them to the side. Put on a cable, ESPN. I love it like diligently. And this day, there was my favorite baseball team was even playing a game. So even more reason to like watching sport. For whatever reason, I'm like, nah, turned it off. I then look over to the left of me. I'm sitting on a couch. There's a stack of magazines. There's Sports Illustrated. There's Playboys. Other things that I like and I'm interested in checking out. For whatever reason, I just flip through these things casually. I'm like, not interested. As I keep flipping through the stack of magazines, I come across this white paperback book, small paperback, and in beautiful red cursive, it read on the cover, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And I remember while I was looking at the book, put my hands on it, I said, who is that? And I opened it up and started to read. Forgot about the time. Got all the way to the beginning where it says, sends you on a journey. There are 10 scrolls to follow. You will read each scroll 3 times a day for 30 days before you move on to the next scroll. I got to there and I was like, this is it. This book found me. Nobody told me you need to read this book. A teacher didn't say you got to read this book. Mm-hmm. It found me. I'm about to go on an adventure with myself. And one of the things you find out in the book that gets the greatest salesman in the world is whoever's reading it.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, this is me. I look down at my watch, 15 minutes before my test. I go wake up my buddy. Hey, can I borrow this book? He says, no, you can have it. My dad gave it to me. He told me to pass it on to somebody who might need it. I put that in my backpack, run to my psychology exam. I don't care if I'm making an F or an A. I ripped through that thing in 30 minutes, turned my paper in because I got to get home and go read that first scroll because I got a new lot in life, a new adventure, a new tact. I'm heading a new direction. And that clarity of finding finding me, gave me the confidence to do what I was already scared of doing, which is call my dad and say, Dad, I want to go to film school instead of law school. He was paying for my school. The arts had never been even spoken about as an option in our family. I thought he was going to go, you want to do what, boy? But I said it that night, 7:30. That'll be a great time to call him. He'll be home from work. I had dinner with Mom. He's having a beer on the couch with her. He'll be in a good mood. It'll be my best chance of asking him and him giving me sort of permission. I call him up. He answers the phone. What's up, little buddy? I said, Pop, I don't want to go to law school anymore. I want to go to film school. There's a pause on the phone. Then I heard, are you sure that's what you want to do, son? Yes, sir. Immediately, I said, yes, sir. Another pause on the phone. And then he said 3 words that were perfect thing for me to hear. And not what I expected. He said, well, don't half-ass it.
I love that.
And I got tingles all over. I was like, yes. He not only gave me approval, he gave me freedom. He gave me privilege. He gave me responsibility. He gave me accountability. The way he said it, I don't half-ass it. Had a little bit of grit in its teeth. Like, if you're going to do it, do it. And couldn't have said anything better to me at that moment. And reason he said it, one of the reasons he said it is he could tell that when I called him, the way I said,
yeah,
Pop, I don't want to go to law school. I want to go to film school. And how quickly when he goes, you sure that's what you want to do? And I went, yes, sir. He could tell that I wasn't really asking permission.
Yeah, you were telling.
He could tell that I wasn't coming up with some hasty fad of an idea of, I think maybe I want to. No, here's what I want to do. And I think in that phone call, which lasted 30 seconds, he heard what every parent wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We give our kids structure, conservative early, right?
Yep.
Boundaries. And if they stay within that structure, they're probably going to do they'll probably be all right. But what do we really want? We want that day where they bust out of it and say, I'm going my own way.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yes, I did my job as a parent. Don't half-ass it.
Yeah. I love that story for how you just summed it up. And I think that's why, and even when I was listening to it and he said it, I got tingles too when he said it, like, cause it just speaks to the power of the influence that we have over particularly our kids. And him saying that and giving you the permission and the freedom is really probably what led to your success as an actor. I mean, it's not the only thing. And if he would have said, nah, screw that, I don't think you would have stopped. I think you still would have pursued it because you were sure.
Maybe would have, dipped a toe.
Right. You would have a little doubt in your head, or, God, I don't want to let my old man down, or, but you didn't have that anymore. You just had the freedom to kind of, go gangbusters on it.
Yep.
And it just speaks to, again, I think that's why it resonated with me, because it just shows you, and we've talked about influence on the show a lot. Like sometimes we don't realize as parents how influential we are, or just anything. I think as human beings, if you're working somewhere, I think we discount the amount of influence and the amount of change that we can have, no matter what your position or title is. And
indeed. I think we should all give ourselves a lot more credit than we do.
Absolutely. I mean, I've talked to teachers. I've had friends who've been teachers, or even teachers high school teachers that I'm friends with to this day. And they tell me that story. They can't tell me how many times kids come up to them and said, man, I remember you gave me that talk and you told me you go this, that. And the teacher said, I don't even know who that kid is. I don't remember that conversation.
Right.
I've had my own kids say, man, it was really important to me that day and I don't even remember that day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What about the days, though, also that you do know right when they ask you the question?
Yeah.
You go through your head, they go, I better have a great answer to this. This is going to be written in their lineage. I can tell by the way they're looking up at me and the context of when they're asking, this is going to shape their perspective of the world.
Yep.
And as a parent, you go,
I better get this right.
Here we go. All right. You better be good on this one. You kind of call yourself out and you go like, you better answer this one really well.
Yeah. It's kind of like
those happen too. And then I do hear that what you say happens all the time, that kids come forward to their parents later on in life, or friends even come later on in life and do the version of what you said, come to you and go, that was really important. And parents and people go, I don't even remember that. What did I say? Was that,
Yeah.
oh, that's good. Did I say that? Oh, that's good. Glad I said that.
Well,
But don't even remember it.
It speaks to the scary of how powerful that influence is, right? Like that's why the intentionality behind it. And that's another thing I think your book is. It's a reminder of the intentionality. Because I think we forget that because we get caught up in the race, and you kind of reminded me reading this book. I mean, I know this on the surface, but just reading it again, it reminds me like this is, I'm slowly marching toward this inevitable end. And I need to, I think reminding yourself of that every day is key. And reminding myself of that leads to intentionality, and that intentionality leads to action. And that's what it's all about. Like every moment is a gift. And that sounds cliche, but it's true, right? I mean,
go back to what we originally started talking about. The very first question, the permanence of the fact that we're heading towards this end. That's permanent, and that our life is impermanent, therefore, right? Because we are going to die. I think we need to spend more time realizing that. But I think we're afraid to, like even, what's the old line? Everybody wants to gets to heaven, but nobody's in a rush to go. Well, I'm not in a rush to go either. No one should be in a rush to go.
No.
But realize that this life is impermanent, and a permanent fact is that we are going to die. Now, if we can do that, and it doesn't have to be, it's not a morose thought. It's
No.
do it with pleasure. If it's inevitable that it's going to happen, well, get a kick out of that. Go, since I can't do anything about it, let's go back to Confucius. You know what I mean? I can't do anything about it. It's going to happen. So, well, let's get it on. Instead of, well, it's all for nothing, so I'm going to bow my head and mope my way out of this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the alternative to saying, well, let's make the best of it, while we got here, the alternative sucks.
Yeah. And I think that when you look at it that way, then all the things that kind of keep us stagnant or leading mediocre lives is whatever, this fear. I mean, there's always this thing of fear, right? This fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, whatever, or failure. And then you're like, well, what does even failure mean? What does that word even mean? It's almost like a Dr. Seuss word, right? Like it's a nonsensical word almost. Like, what does even failure mean? I guess to me, it would mean that I just gave up, I guess. You know what I mean? Or I didn't try. But it's like, right. Why be afraid of, what's there to be afraid of, I guess?
I hear you. I'm trying to challenge myself daily to go, what the hell are you so afraid of? I ask myself that all the time. I've taken a lot of risk in my life, but I think when I get asked, what would you tell yourself to your 12-year-old self again? I'd tell myself, take more risk, more. What is the hang up with this thing about failure? I mean, look, today though, going back with our worlds today and our kids' worlds today compared to when you and I were growing up, failure almost, virtually is compounded. People thumb down, thumb down, thumb down, thumb down, thumb down, na, boo, got you. Look at you fail, ha, ha, ha. Truth, and to actually realize the truth that, oh, those people are barking from the sidelines because those people live on the sidelines.
Right.
That's why they're on the sidelines. They're just listening over their cat calling from there. No, I mean, people that actually fail, when you fail, if you tried and failed, respect the failure because they go, hey, man, there you go. Yeah. Me too. Oh, and you got back up and tried again? I like this guy. I've gotten jobs. I've gotten opportunities for being the one who failed more because I got back up and kept failing.
Yeah. And
got an opportunity from somebody who tried the first time and pulled it off, but then was walking around looking in the mirror. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I've gotten that's happened before. And yeah, we do have a false sort of, we give it too much gravitas to failure. But then we also do this. We grovel in our failure. We dwell in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We relive it over and over again.
Yeah. And we feel like can become epidemic, you know what I mean? And it's gonna failure will lead to more and more and more. I mean, and then everyone saw me fail, and like you said, that thing embarrassment. I think embarrassment's good. If anything, I wish today people were more embarrassed.
Yeah.
than they
Yeah,
are.
that's a great point. Yeah, there seems to be a lack of it. Yeah, you're right. If you look at the landscape, do you think, I mean, we're talking about leadership and you look at deficits in leadership, and I mean, it can be in the entertainment industry, it can be in politics, it can be in business, it can be in life. I mean, when you look at that landscape, how does it make you feel? Is it negative? Do you see, I mean, what do you wish people were doing? What do you wish our politicians were doing? You know what I mean? Where's the deficits in your mind?
Well, um, in today's world where it seems to me obvious that the masses' social commentary makes the judgment before the courtroom does.
Yeah.
You are, the rules are unclear. That conservative early part is got wishy-washy sideline.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a great coach in a college football team, but you get caught paying a bunch of people off, well, just go take a year off. We'll forgive you. And then you'll come back. Cause hey, if you're a winner, we're going to look the other way a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're a kid getting away with it, if you're a stud at something, people look the other way and let some things pass. In life, leadership we react to, people. You can get consequences for you or against you to a much stronger nature than what the rules actually are supposed to be, because how the public react.
Mm-hmm.
And so our leaders, I think we react too much to, well, what's hot right now? What's at the top of the Google page? What's everyone yelling about? Do you agree with them? Well, it doesn't matter if I agree with them. Hey man, look how many of them there are. Let's talk politics for a second. I think Republican and Democrat is just tiny thinking right now.
I agree.
I think it's just smart. It's actually, and I say this, I think I'm correct in saying that it's actually become unconstitutional if your job is to represent the American people. So for instance, in America. But if you if you're on one side or the other and you illegitimize the whole other side, then you're not only serving 50% of the people. That's so reactionary. We don't have a certain compass that we can rely on and lead. The other thing I would say this is we don't do enough. We get our leader in, or who I voted for, you voted for, whatever, and they get us off the porch. They get us to come to the edge of the porch, right?
Yep.
And we're with them. We're a soldier, right? But then when they win and they get put in seat, we don't get off the porch. We go back and sit down.
Yeah, we don't hold them accountable enough.
Yeah. And we don't hold ourselves accountable.
We sit
down, a lot of us go, whew, I'm glad they won. Now we're okay. All right, what's going on? You're like, no. Now's the time to get off the porch. They can't do it for us.
Right.
So that way we give them too much credit.
Absolutely.
I think leaders, and especially in politics, are going through a real time of they are having to redefine. A good aspect of, I think, this separation we have now is that in politics, leaders are forced to redefine or redeclare what the hell is it you do? What's your job?
Yeah. Well, you kind of talk about at the end of the book where you kind of start talking about values and competence. I think that's the key, right? I mean, I think
so.
We've lost touch with, and I think that's what you're getting at, is like there's no defined set of values, and the competence thing is certainly lacking. I don't know. It's just, there used to be things that, our parents used to rally around. Even if we disagreed, we could certainly rally around values and competence, right? I mean, I can sit there and I can take the Constitution and I can say, and say, pick any oppressed group or minority group or whatever, or someone that's not, you can hold up those are values and principles, right? They stand the test of time, and you can go, how do I fit into this? Okay, show me how I don't fit into this. Why do you think I don't belong here? Right. And it's hard to argue against that. And I don't see much of that anymore. I see it's all about identity, and it's about, I just feel like, I'm 50, I just turned 52, and I don't feel like I have a political home. I don't feel like I think it's because when I even read at the end of your book about the values and competence piece, that resonated with me. Maybe that's not what you meant when you're talking about values and competence, but that's how I interpreted it. I don't know.
But it is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It is exactly what I mean. My hunch is that that's the place we can
I
reconnect
agree.
contracts again and still disagree, maybe politically, or not go to the same church. That's a place where we can just have an expectation between you and me. I have an expectation of you and you have an expectation of me. Let's baseline this. Let's just go to a baseline of some decency.
Right.
Respect, dignity. We got to rediscover the respect for each other and ourselves. That's also a selfish act. We don't have it. We don't have trust in others, therefore we don't have trust in ourselves. But right now, the private sector seems to me to have more power and influence than ever before.
Yeah.
And all the way down to the individual. And that's what I'm saying. If enough of us look ourselves in the mirror and go, how am I going to be a little bit better today?
Yeah. See, that's the key, right? Like what could
that? There's your collective change that we want.
Yeah, I love what you said there. I think it's the key to leadership when you sit there and say, well, I want, and I've coached some people and I've talked to people and at the CEO level, and they're like, I want to be this person of influence, and they're thinking at the wrong way. And I always tell them, I'm like, you want to be a person of influence, then think like what you just said. How can I add value to this transaction? How can I add value to this conversation so that we both walk away better human beings? And I don't think people do that enough.
I'm guilty of not doing it enough. And
I'm saying me too. I mean, yeah. It's something I got to intentionally think about because I'm a selfish pig like everybody else. I mean,
well, I'm into redefining the word selfish. My pastor says you're pushing a big rock up a big tall hill, buddy, but I'm in for the long game. I believe that there is generosity leads to gratitude. Gratitude breeds responsibility, and responsibility can give us freedom.
I agree.
Starts with generosity. And if you look all the way back, if you look at the Bible, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Mm-hmm. Golden rule. Love your neighbor as yourself. Both of those come right back to being selfish. It's selfish to be generous.
Yeah, no, I like where you're going with that because I agree. Because I used to think leadership and it was so external. Like, how can I externally motivate? How can I do this? But it is an internal battle. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, right? It was resonating with me.
But it takes a long view to get that.
Yes, I agree.
It takes understanding that our choices we make today are investments, are compounding assets in our future.
Right.
And we don't like to look that far out. And I'm thinking with what I want to do with the values campaign. Well, it can sound great. Everyone can say, yeah, I verbally take the pledge and I spiritually take the pledge and I mentally take the pledge and I agree with you. But can any real change, and this is an open question, I don't know the answer, anything really change collectively unless you can make some do-re-mi on it? Now, I'm also into opening up the definition of what do we call currency. I think we ought to fill our bank accounts and our soul's account. And our soul's account. And I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. Can you have a nonprofit idea for profit? Because I think in a capitalist world, money's got to be made. If you can show how these things measure, if I can have these values as a company leader and run my company this way, and my staff is happier to come to work here and my numbers are better at the end of the year, well, you better show me my numbers are better at the end of the year. Yeah. Because all these happy people, if I'm in the red, I'm about to be out of a job. So you can take that little, and I'm not talking about a kumbaya. No, I don't think there's any kumbaya future. But I think it's going to have to be, it has to be shown as how are having values maybe equitable? How are having a common denominator understanding contract of values amongst us as individuals across institutions, et cetera, how is that actually for profit? How can that also fill a bank account? I think it can. I figured it out. But
I think it can for sure. I mean, I think, and again, because that profit can provide the freedom to promote, the values that you're talking about. Again, it's just, Yeah, I love what you said.
G&H versus GNP, gross national happiness versus gross national, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
There's a way to feel both of them.
Yeah.
And right now we kind of hold those as two mutually exclusive, you know. Well, you either got to be a really good guy and a good man and be humble and poor, but be happy in the spirit, or you can be really, you know, those two don't have to be mutually exclusive.
You know, John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, he's big into that. I've had him on the show with the conscious capitalism type of,
Yep.
A lot of what you're saying, he believes, you know, so I'm kind of in that camp with you and what John Mackey, that's kind of what you're saying kind of reminds me of what John Mackey said when he was on this show. I think we have
He's talked about it. Mark Benioff talks about it, you know, innovative, create considerate innovation. You can make change through business, can actually make change. The good change.
Great stuff, man. I'm looking at the clock and we're coming up on an hour, and I know I said we do this for an hour. I could talk to you forever about this stuff, but man, Matthew, the book is just great. I mean, I know you're probably proud of it. You have to be, and people have told you how great it was, but I mean, just let me say it again. I think it's a profound book. I really do. I think you should be very proud of what you've accomplished, because it touched me in a way I didn't think it would. And I learned a lot about you. I mean, I've always followed you, been a fan of you, known you, but I mean, I see you in a whole different way that I didn't see you before. And it's a great book.
Well, thank you. And that's great to hear. Again, you know, I was hoping it would translate.
It does.
You know, and to hear from individuals like yourself, hey, it did. That's the happiest. That's what makes me the happiest and most honored about writing it, because that's what I was hoping it was more than just a form of self-expression that everyone goes, well, I know a lot more about McConaughey. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but good for him, you know?
Well, I think that's why you're so good as an actor too. I mean, you seem to, I don't think you couldn't live if you weren't pursuing authenticity. And again, and I know you're not perfect. I'm not either. None of us are. But it seems like ever since you were young, you tried to pursue this. You've been in this constant quest. You're insatiably curious. You try to do it as authentically as possible. I think acting is the best thing for you. I mean, that's why I think you make such a great actor, because you approach it that way, right? Even like in your book, you're saying, well, who's this guy? You know, even when your first movie, you know, when Dazed and Confused, you know, who's my man? Yeah. I love it. I don't know. I think it's great.
Thank you. Thank you. I could talk for hours more as well. And shoot, I may hit you up as I'm still formulating this Minister of Culture position and how to get a shared values campaign, shared and competent values campaign. And it's something that is, you know, scalable and could apply everybody. I'm again working on what are the measurements that people can go, oh, well, I could actually succeed in business if I did that. That's still meant to work on, but I may open it up, hit you back, and share with you what I'm trying to do. I
think you're onto something, and I agree. Because, like I said, I've talked to so many guys and gals, you know, even when I was trying to pivot on this show, I was like, what am I doing with this show? Like, it'll be 8 years old in January, and I'm like, what am I trying to do? And it's along those lines, you know. And I think it's because I don't feel like I have a home. I can't turn on, I can't turn on the TV. I can't listen to it. I mean, podcasts are out there and stuff, but just in the mainstream sense, and there's no, I have no home. I don't, I have no political home. I have no, and there's a lot of guys and gals out there that are like that, you know, and they just feel like they're alone. Anyway, Matthew, this is such a big get for Dose of Leadership. I can't believe that you came on and you're so gracious in your time. It's so awesome that you came on. And the Greenlights is the book, folks. And you got to go get it. I'm going to recommend it to all my listeners. So thanks for coming on. Stay on the line and we'll talk for a little bit after this recording, but thanks for coming on, Matthew.
You are welcome.